Welcome to the third season of Sign for the Times, as we continue conversations with staff of the Society for the Involvement of Good Neighbours, commonly known as SIGN, and sometimes, when possible, those who have been assisted by SIGN programs. SIGN is a not-for-profit agency in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, Canada, that provides social and community programs and services, 24 in total, that fulfill its mission, which is to provide leadership, programs, and services that assist, support, and empower children, adults, and families to achieve lifelong success. SIGN believes that will lead to strong and caring citizens and communities. My name is Dick DeRyck. Today we explore SIGN housing support with the manager, Martha Garris. Martha is relatively new to the housing program, but definitely not new to SIGN. With World Homeless Day coming up on October the 10th, we will explore SIGN's work in housing support, the state of housing in Yorkton at this time, and what's coming up as we move into winter. Welcome, Martha, and let's start with an introduction of yourself and the housing support staff.
Hi, Dick. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. I'm happy to talk about housing support. So as Dick said, I'm the manager of the program, and with us, we also have a housing outreach support worker. Her name is Tennille. Personally, I've worked at a group home in the past, so this is not my first interaction with SIGN as a company. My background is actually in psychology, whereas many of my coworkers come out of social work, so that kind of gives me an interesting perspective.
Thanks for that, and let's get on to the topic, housing support. It's one that we've talked about in 2 or 3 previous podcasts going back a couple of years, because at one time there was a housing study done in Yorkton that SIGN was very instrumental in, and it made some recommendations and kind of looked at the current state of housing in Yorkton. And we've talked about that before. Where is that at? What can you update us on the housing study itself?
So as a result of the housing study, we see that now Yorkton officially has an emergency shelter. I believe at the time that this podcast comes out, the shelter will officially have opened its doors, which is very exciting news for the community, as we've been without an emergency shelter for a long time, and it's been far needed. We are lucky to have 2 shelters for women experiencing interpersonal violence, but we don't have any shelters, or did not have any shelters in the past, that covered the rest of the homeless population. We're also still using the study as a guide as we look at new low-income housing initiatives, because we know that's a real need in the community as well. While we have some local low-income housing, there's just not enough units for the amount of demand right now. And I'm sure a lot of people who have tried to apply have experienced that. There's waiting lists pretty much everywhere you go, and that can be quite frustrating.
I would imagine that, with the current economic conditions and rising costs for everybody, inflation, that impacts people's ability to find affordable places to rent just as much as it impacts when you fill your gas tank on your car.
Absolutely. Everything's just a little tighter right now. So the demand, I imagine, is probably increasing, but we haven't seen a real increase in those affordable housing units in the area. So we're still trying to work on that. As a member of the Social Housing Committee, that's often a topic that we're discussing there, trying to look at what's feasible, what's viable, and who can head those projects.
The temporary housing, the emergency housing you're talking about is now known, I think, in the community as Bruno's Place over on Dominion Avenue. And I saw recently that they are, I think, aiming for an October opening. There was a news item on that. So that is going to alleviate some of the couch surfing, maybe some of the sleeping in bank lobbies. When we're getting into colder weather, I mean, things are going to get tougher for people that don't have a place to sleep.
And that's always been a huge concern for this program, because we don't have access to emergency shelter and we don't have regular access to funding to put people in hotels. All of that is done through income assistance, through social services. So we're hoping this will really relieve the stress on us as a program, the stress on income assistance, and make things a little bit easier for those people who are looking for permanent housing but don't have anywhere to stay while they conduct that search, which makes it that much harder to find a consistent place to live.
Now, you mentioned funding, and obviously that's a big part of the solution if there's going to be one. who is active in funding these types of programs and housing support at SIGN?
So housing support itself is funded through the Government of Canada, and we receive that money through Métis Nation Saskatchewan. We're lucky that obviously the Canadian government has seen there's a high level of need in the homeless population. So there is more funding coming down. We're applying for funding as we can. So that's exciting news as well, that obviously the government is recognizing there's a need for more money, there's a need for more funding, and for these programs to continue to grow. Housing support is not a very old program. I believe we started in 2018. So we've already seen quite a big amount of growth since that start. And that's exciting, really.
So when people are looking for housing or when they are in a homeless situation, how do they get in touch with you? Where do they go? What is the process for you to be able to determine what their needs are and how you can help them?
Right. So people trying to access our program can call us ideally. We also have a text number that you can use. We have an email. And we also try to be responsive to walk-ins if we can. Ideally, that's not the situation. Obviously, that doesn't guarantee you an appointment with someone, but we understand that for a lot of our clients, they don't have a cell phone, they don't have consistent transportation. So we try to be able to respond if they're just attending the building in person. Ideally, for clients that are coming and trying to access the program, they really just need some information and some support. Because again, we don't have housing we can put them into, and we can't help them financially. But we can do is we can help them access an income, whether that's helping them apply for income assistance or connecting them to employment services. We can attend viewings with them. We can try to make the whole process a little bit more comfortable, because it is a long process to gain housing. There's a lot of steps and it can be quite daunting. So we're really here to try to support those individuals who need it most so that they can get housed. And then ideally, if they are housed, we'll try to stay with them for some time after to do follow-up, to make sure things are going okay, to help them if they ever need to approach the landlord with any issues. We're just there to support them wherever they need it.
You mentioned text or phone, email. Email, I believe, is housing support at signyorkton.ca. What number would they text or call?
The office number is 306-783-0006. And to reach our housing outreach support worker directly, you can call or text her at 306-621-4241. I know, especially in this day and age, a lot of people are more comfortable texting, so we'll absolutely try to be as responsive as possible to those texts.
Yep. You also produce a document that lists potential places where people can rent, because, as you mentioned, there's not a whole lot for rent in the city, and we have that on the website, so people could take a look there as well if they're in a situation where they want to make some contacts themselves. That information is available.
Absolutely, and that can be helpful to the community at large. While our actual clients are the homeless and hard to house individuals, we will do what we can to try to support individuals who don't fit into that criteria with whatever information can support them. We can disseminate housing information to the community. That is part of our mandate as a program. So even if you're just looking for more information and you know you don't fit that criteria, we'd be happy to pass that along to you or sit down for an appointment and just give you a run over of kind of what the housing process is and what's available in Yorkton.
October the 10th. Interestingly, that's Thanksgiving Day in Canada, yes. And it's World Homeless Day. And I think that alone, that coincidence, sends a bit of a message that the rest of us should be pretty thankful.
I think that's a very powerful coincidence. It's quite ironic. And so I'm hoping with World Homeless Day being on that day, a lot of people are probably meeting with their families anyways, or taking some time to enjoy a nice meal. So maybe they can also try to take a moment on that day to learn a little bit more about homelessness in Canada or Saskatchewan. Maybe it's watching a TED Talk about homelessness. Just try to educate themselves a little bit more and help however they can. Maybe they want to donate to an organization, whether that's Bruno's Place or another not-for-profit organization. Keep that conversation going, because a lot of individuals don't know the scope of homelessness because we don't always see it, especially in Yorkton. A lot of it is couch surfing. You can also access the housing needs report on the housing support webpage. So if that's something you want to take on, it is quite a long document, but even a good skim of it is helpful. So you can kind of understand what we're looking at in the context of Yorkton.
Are there any specific activities planned in Yorkton for World Homeless Day that you're aware of?
So right now, not specifically on that day. Of course, it is Thanksgiving Day, so we'll be at home that day. But I am conducting through Housing Support a warm clothing drive at this time. So we're accepting donations to Sign on Broadway here. And Bruno's Place is also accepting donations just to try to support all of our clients, make sure they're staying warm this winter. Even if they are staying at the shelter, a lot of them are doing transportation by foot. So that can be quite chilly as the temperatures continue to drop. And I believe that also planning on doing a Thanksgiving dinner, of course, on that day, which again is kind of coincidental, but I'm sure they'd be happy to accept donations towards that cause as well, if that's a way that people can support the cause.
For the clothing drive, mitts, toques, gloves, jackets, sweaters, anything that keeps people warm?
Pretty much anything. I'm lucky here at Sign. I do have quite a nice office space. So I really do try to keep whatever donations I can, because you just never know what someone's going to need when they walk in that door. And because of the transient nature of a lot of our clients, sometimes we don't see them again, or we don't see them again for a long period of time. So it's really helpful to have those warm items on hand, whatever they might be, to give to those clients.
And they don't necessarily need to be brand new as long as they're clean and usable. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Gently used items, we always say. And I can also do some sanitizing here on site. So it is really helpful if you can clean them on your own first. That kind of streamlines the process for us. But we are able to sanitize on this end too. So we're making sure they're suitable for our clients to use.
So people could drop them off either at Bruno's Place on Dominion Avenue or at Sign on Broadway at the front desk. Leslie will probably be there to help them and accept their donations.
Yeah, and that way there's a few more options wherever you choose to donate them. Typically, or not typically yet, but we're going to try to support each other, Housing Support and Bruno's Place. So if more donations end up here, I'll of course pass them along to Bruno's Place. And that's why both places are acceptable too, because we're really trying to have an open, supportive relationship there.
We're all looking after the same people for the same purpose, right? We have talked about Bruno's Place here, and it's been in the news. Once they're open, you and I and the management of Bruno's Place perhaps can get together and have another chat about their specific program. Because like you say, it's all complementary. There's no competition here. We're all working for the same end goal, right?
Imagine they're going to be quite busy in the coming weeks as they're opening and working out all of those kinks. But I am hopeful that in the future we can all sit down, check in with how things are going, and see if there's anything the community should know or any way the community can support them further. If anyone ever has any questions or they want to know if a donation is acceptable, just feel free to call the office. Our hours are 8:30 to 12 and 1 to 4:30 p.m., Monday to Friday.
Thank you, Martha, for all this information. And we remind people that World Homeless Day, October the 10th, which is Thanksgiving Day here in Canada, and perhaps give some thought to those who are less fortunate than we are as we sit around the table. I'm not a turkey fan, but people will be eating turkey and hopefully giving some thought to others who don't have that opportunity. New Sign for the Times podcasts are published regularly. In upcoming podcasts, we will continue to talk with those who have been assisted by Sign's various programs where possible, and with the program managers and staff who provide that assistance. If you have comments or suggestions, please feel free to email communications@signyorkton.ca or use the contact options on our website, www.signyorkton.ca. We are also on Facebook and Instagram, all at Sign Yorkton. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again soon.